Regular meeting for September 6th, 2017. If you'll please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Lord, thank you for this great community. Thank you for all the people that are gathered here this evening that took their time to come and be here with us this evening to do what we need to do for the city of Canby. We lift up so many different people right now as our state is virtually on fire, and we ask that you protect those that are out there fighting those fires. Some of those are Canby firefighters, and please protect them most of all. And please provide shelter and safety for those that are being displaced. And we offer thanks for those communities that are rallying to help all those that are in need. We say thanks, and we ask these in your son's name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is a couple of proclamations. The first one is the POW MIA Recognition Day. Whereas the United States of America has participated in many wars, calling upon its sons and daughters to fight for their country. And whereas American men and women have been held captive by hostile powers during their military service, and whereas many American prisoners of war were subjected to harsh and inhumane treatment by their captors, which often resulted in death. And whereas Americans are still listed as missing and unaccounted for, and the families and friends of those missing Americans, as well as their fellow veterans, still endure uncertainty concerning their fate. And whereas the sacrifices of Americans still missing are deserving of national recognition and support for continuing priority efforts to determine their fate. And whereas the city of Canby is proud to join with other cities in the state of Oregon and nation in honoring those that are still missing. Now therefore, I, Brian Hodson, Mayor of the city of Canby, hereby proclaim September 15th, 2017 as POW MIA Recognition Day in Canby, and encourage all citizens to join in this observance given unto my hand this 6th day of September 2017. I think Pat's here to accept this today.
Sir, can you push the button again? Sorry. Thank you.
That better?
Yep. Oh. Green light. There you go.
My name is Pat Schauer. I'm a member of the Canby VFW Post 6057. On behalf of all the prisoners of war, past and present, alive and deceased, and for the thousands of MIA people that have not come home yet, I humbly accept this proclamation, and I thank you very much.
Yes.
A little presentation of thank you and remembrance. My name is Irene Brashear, Secretary of the Auxiliary of Canby Aurora VFW. This is our new treasurer, Jeanne Horn, who is passing out a POW MIA envelope in remembrance, and it also has the total eclipse moon, that if you put your finger on the stamp, the moon comes back to remember the amazing event that happened. Also to remind you, don't forget our POW MIA. Thank you.
So the flyer that was passed out was that the auxiliary is holding their annual all-you-can-eat spaghetti dinner on Saturday, September 23rd, from 4 to 7 at the Aurora American Legion Hall on Main Street off 99. So mark your calendars for that. So thank you guys very much. Our second proclamation this evening is Canby Public Library Day. Whereas the origins of our library reach back to 1937, when 3 members of the Canby Women's Civic Club went door to door gathering donations and books to start a community library. And whereas thanks to their diligent efforts, the Canby Public Library was established in Canby's newly built City Hall on September 16, 1937. And whereas, since 1937, the library has improved the quality of life in Canby by serving as a center of community life and discourse, offering opportunities for people to enrich their lives through educational, cultural, and artistic experiences. And whereas libraries create better citizens and safeguard the future of our community by enabling individuals to make informed decisions about their self-governance, by promoting unrestricted access to information, by supporting print and technological literacy, lifelong learning, and the free expression of ideas. And whereas over the course of many years, Canby has been well served by its public library, which continues to make Canby a great place to live and work. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Hodson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Canby, do hereby proclaim September 16th as Canby Public Library Day and encourage all residents to take advantage of the many resources the library offers and to take part in the many activities being held to commemorate Canby Public Library Day, given under my hand the 6th day of September 2017. So who do we have here?
We've been in our building for almost a year now, so I just wanted to recap what we've accomplished over this past year, and I think the best way to do it is through this presentation that I wanted to show you. So if you want to look at the screen, it should be coming up now.
Thanks, Irene. Thank you. I think one of the really neat things that's been added, I mean, there's been a lot, but the Lucky Day materials, you know, just being able to go in and those are like, if you it's great having those because there's always something there that's easy to grab, and they're definitely the hot items to check out. And so always have definitely found a few good books through there recently, and so have my kids. So I like that feature a lot. So thank you for all that you have done. And I know we've got friends of the library here and whatnot. So thank you all for all the work that you guys have been doing as well. So thank you. Next up is communications. Joe or Kim?
None, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you, Joe. First opportunity for citizen input and community announcements on non-agenda items. The only one, so your opportunity to address the council on concern or ideas, suggestions, and so Mr. Burdette wants to talk to us about the Canby Rod and Gun Club. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good evening. I'd like to first, my name is Jim Burdette. I represent the Canby Rod and Gun Club. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to speak to everyone. Our concern is currently there's a housing development on Southeast 13th going in, and the Canby Rod and Gun Club has acquired a property up to 13th Avenue. We border just right across the street from them, and we're an active gun range. In the past, when the FICE edition went in and the Tofty Farm editions went in, the homeowners that were buying the homes that were not aware that they were buying next to an active gun range. And it has a lot of concerns from them. And we've did the best we could to handle it. I've volunteered to speak with their homeowners associations, answer any questions they had and concerns. And of course, we're not going anywhere. and that's would be their greatest desire. The people that have had concerns is that we would, but we're not. So if there's any way that the city could ensure that the developers and the real estate people could let the people know that are purchasing these new homes that they will be across the street from an active gun range, we'd appreciate that. Might help with any issues. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I have one. Jim, how long has the Canby Gun and Rod Club been there?
We're started in Canby in the late 1800s, and we started shooting where the Canby Rental is, out toward that housing developed, that Valley of the Lots, I believe that's called. Mm-hmm. And then we moved from there to the locations where they shot between, which is now night school and Eccles School, into the fields there. Then we moved to the Clackamas County Fairgrounds and shot for many years there. And then in the late 50s, we moved down to the location, late 1950s, to the location we're at right now, and started shooting. So that's how we've occupied it since then.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, just a second there, Counselor. So when I first moved to Canby, so I've lived here 15 years now, we looked at the house that we were in, probably right around between 11 and 1 o'clock. Not a lot of shooting going on. We bought the house, moved in about middle of July. Mm-hmm. And so hot summer night, windows are open. My wife and I are sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm hearing, you know, the popping. I'm like, what the heck was that? So asked the neighbor across the street, who was Clackamas County Sheriff, and he's like, oh, that's the Canby Gun and Rod Club. And I'm like, oh, well, how often do they, you know, so he gave me the full story and the history on the club and how often the shooting, there's practice and the gun range is active. This was something that was definitely not told to me when we moved in by my realtor. Come to now, I don't hear it, much like I don't hear very often the train whistle, mm-hmm. Mr. Oliver.
I know.
But
you had to start.
I did. I started it tonight. I think you guys are a great organization, and I think that you've got two real estate professionals up here on the dais that I can tell you will do a better job of informing people that there is that club here, and they've been here a long time, and I generally tell people that do have a complaint about it that you guys have been here a long time. And just like when we did the apartment complex behind Fred Meyer, one of the pieces that was a concern of the businesses there was, are people going to complain, and is the city going to then come after the businesses about noise and whatnot? My piece is that they were there first, the houses came second. So that's my position. So I appreciate that you guys are here in town, and that's a club here. So thank you for that. Councilor Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I would encourage you to make sure that you're utilizing the gentleman a few rows behind you in our planning department and the planning and zoning process. When you own that property there, any development that goes on near there, permits, applications, particularly the changing of farm property to residential property, there are criteria that have to be met by those developers. And one of those is affecting neighboring uses and surrounding uses. And so if you're monitoring that, I know it's a pain, but that's one way you can definitely get yourself involved legally to have your say and potentially get conditions or other things done by our planning commission or us, is to show up to those meetings and make sure that you're voicing whatever concerns you have about the particular application or development that's going on, to make sure that they, you know, take your voice into consideration. Because I know I've been on the planning commission and now council for a while in Canby, and I don't think I've ever seen Canby Rod and Gun Club come to a planning commission meeting. So I would definitely encourage you to make sure you.
Yeah, and we have not, and it's just that we're trying to get ahead of it this time, because usually it's afterwards, you know, the talk forum, they moved in, they hired a lawyer, and then they came and spoke to us, and then we showed them the state, federal laws that we have to abide by, and which we do, as far as the noise ordinance and the hours that we can shoot. And so they find out there's nothing they can do, but the homeowner then is not a happy person.
Right. Well, and there are some nights that when it's clear out, it doesn't matter where you live in Canby, you can hear the gun club, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, especially if it's foggy out.
Yeah.
A good foggy night, sound travels.
You have something, Councilor Parker?
Yeah, I'm glad you're here and came to talk to us about this, because yes, you were here first, and this is what our planners call rural-urban interface issues. My favorite story is one of my friends who bought one of the then new Centrex homes out by the Simnett property. And he was telling me how happy he was. He woke up and he saw wheat growing across the street, and it was just beautiful being next to a farm. And then he called me up one day and said, "Do you know what time they start the tractors?" And I said, "So you want a small town that doesn't sound or smell like a small town?"
Yeah.
So, but I think you're right. I think all of us can do a better job at disclosure. I've sort of gotten used to it as well. It's Thursday night, long guns. But thank you for showing up, because the city is going to grow in that direction. That's where our growth is going to be. So we need to figure out ways to do as much as we can to get everybody going along.
And we're working to contain the noise. You know, we're putting up baffling and stuff, but you can't contain it all.
Well, I'm just curious what we can do to compel a realtor to disclose. I'm all for that, absolutely, because it's just like the folks who lived, moved in next to Woodburn Drag Strip or moved in next to the airport. You can't expect these things to move. But what can we actually do? I mean, that would be a question probably for Rick, who's not here, but Joe, do you know, what can we do? What is actually within our power to compel a real estate agent to disclose such a thing?
The city council's power to force somebody to disclose.
We don't really.
Well, no, not a realtor. I mean, it's just freedom of speech idea there. But what I will do is, I've made a note here. I'll bring it to Mr. Robinson as well and see if he has any creative ideas about how to kind of get, the word out and get people kind of talking and being a little bit more open about this sort of thing.
But as far as like compelling somebody to say something, it's a little hard.
It is hard, that's bigger, yeah.
And
Whatever we can do,
There's,
though.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you.
that's-
The way I understand it, there's no required legal disclosure. It's the buyer's obligation to do their due diligence about surrounding properties and usage. The seller and the realtor, the listing agent and the owner are only required to disclose material facts about the property itself, not, I mean, there's
Kind of what I figured,
yeah.
so I was kind of wondering what we can do. I'm all for doing whatever we can, and I just want to know what those things are.
Well, because one of the pieces too that we've run into as Canby has developed along the south end of town is that Southeast 13th is considered on our transportation plan a truck route. And so when Tofty Farms went in, you know, Mr. former HOA president there was lots of conversation about, well, I didn't know this was a truck route. This shouldn't be a truck route. Well, it's been in the city plan for, you know, a long time. And so it's the due diligence of the buyer and seller to know what's going on, not necessarily the real estate agents or the other people involved, so.
And to round off Councilor Smith's point is that as a neighbor, you will always get notice if there's going to be any sort of, you know, land development around, you know, within so many feet of your land. So if you wanted to be on the forefront of that and come to some meetings, you'll get noticed if you're a neighbor. So if you want to be proactive, great, and just look for your notice in the mail.
Tyler, what's the what's the measurement or around that? Because isn't there a certain
Depends on what,
feet?
yeah, it depends on what kind of land use application it is, but it's always at least 100 feet of the boundary. And I think if you're within 100 feet of the application, I think you would always get noticed, no matter what kind. And Brian Brown, our planning director, would be up to 500 to be annexed. And zone change would be 300, 500 for a zone change.
Can I add one more?
We purchased the Feist property, so we're right up to 13th Avenue, so we're.
I would add, I certainly appreciate you guys being in town. You've been here a long time, longer, you know, I grew up with the noise and I hear it now on my back porch, and, you know, you just come to accept it, much like the train, it just becomes part of your life here. However, one thing that you might be, if it's a real concern for the gun club, just, you know, citizen to citizen, it's right across the street from you. If you own the property right across the street, maybe even an additional sign.
And we are planning on doing that.
I think that would do most of the work, for sure.
That would communicate, yeah, right.
And we have had some members that have talked to the developer also that's developing it, and then I volunteered to come to city council members, so we're kind of covering all of our bases, and just to, and we're still going to get some complaints. We know that, sure. You know, because everybody's not, or they're going to think, oh, active gun club, no big deal, and then they hear the noise and go,
Then they realize what active is.
Are you planning on expanding northward towards?
No, if you notice, if you go down 13th Avenue, we have filbert trees planted on the 52 acres that we're not using as the shooting range. That across from, I don't know if any of you are familiar with, it used to be Weber's Cannery. They're the fields across from that have filbert trees in them. If you go down there and see the fields with filbert trees in them, that property is what the Canby Gun Club is, because we had to purchase the whole 92 acres. They couldn't subdivide it. So then, and that we decided to keep it in farm usage and put filbert trees in it was our best bet.
Perfect. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
And then also the trees will help with noise.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Moving into mayor's business. Attended the chamber luncheon on Tuesday, and the chamber director, Mallory Gwynn, gave the chamber like a very small taste of our retail report that we had done 6 or 9 months ago. But it was, very brief, very just lightly touched on it, but I think it was a great use of that audience to be able to share that piece with it. And so he did challenge the chamber members that were there to ask him for the report to read it, and he gave a lot of personal pieces with using that report to draw out his business plan for his new business here in town, and really encouraged a lot of the businesses to look at that. So I thought that was a great, again, continuing to bring that up and use that as a resource. So I thought that was great that he did that. The Region 1 Area Commission on Transportation that I am on has not met recently. We meet on Monday. So I'll have a report next time, as well as the Clackamas County Coordinating Committee. That meets tomorrow night, so I'll have a report next meeting. It is back to school time, so all the kids are back out at school, and the school zones are active and busy, so I really encourage everyone just to be a little bit more cautious and drive a little bit slower through the school zones, as there are wee children running around in those buildings, and we just need to do a better job of just making sure that we're being aware of that. Mr. City Attorney, maybe something to bring back to Mr. Robinson, or if you know this, several months back we had conversation about noise concerns and a noise meter, and potentially outfitting either code enforcement or an officer or two with said equipment.
Yes.
Where are we at with that, and are we using it?
I believe that they were looking at the purchase of, ones that met the criteria that are set out in the new ordinance. I have not seen one, so I will follow up with Code Enforcement Officer Ennis as well as Chief Smith, and just make sure that they're doing that.
If we could, please, because
Yes.
that's been a hot topic in my email inbox last month or so.
Absolutely.
So I just want to make sure that we're continuing to follow up on that, and that we get, so that we can address some of these neighborhood concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Finally, on Monday morning is the 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony at the Canby Fire Station. It's 8 o'clock. Chief, yes, thank you. 8 o'clock. It's always a very moving and heartfelt remembrance ceremony. So if you can make it, please mark it in your calendars and come down and spend a half hour of your time with us, and just myself and Senator Olson will be speaking, and I know the fire district will do a great job, because they always do. So please mark your calendar for that, and that has been also marked as a day of service. So there's a number of opportunities, I'm sure, around town to be able to give back and help guards as well. So please take that time and do something volunteer-wise and give back in that regard. That concludes my business for right now. We'll start with Councilor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'll start with the fire district. The fire district met on the 23rd. They had President Thurman was reelected as the president. Don Deppner was elected as the vice chair, and Laura Green was elected as the secretary. And we have a new officer, Evan Fawcett, who ended his probationary period, I should say, not a new officer. The next thing was the captain interviews had been completed. We have a new captain, which is Jason Warner, has been promoted to captain. There is going to be a retirement party for Chief Fuge, October 19th at the fire station. Barbecue at 6 o'clock. The community is welcome to come and celebrate the retirement of somebody that's been instrumental for what they all lost. I don't think anyone there knew exactly how long he had been helping and volunteering. It was like close to half a century or something. When is that for? October 19th, the fire station, be a barbecue at 6 o'clock. You might want to let them know if you're coming, so they have an estimate on how many people. I don't know if they knew I was going to advertise it.
Invite the whole town.
The chief mentioned I suffered through and endured a grilling on the park maintenance fee by the Canby Fire Board. and there were a number of opinions there that were mostly shared by their board. One that I took note of, the chief did have an idea of and a concept of merging the pool levy into the park district and consolidating those into one, which was, I thought, was noteworthy. Next is with the current fire situation. At that time, our firefighters and EMTs and the crew were traveling around the state further out, Brookings and the fires south of Bend and some of the Warm Springs fire, and then it's just continued on since then. The chief, I talked to him today. He let me know that yes, as of yesterday, Canby Fire Department had one engine with 3 firefighters on the local fire in the Gorge, 2 division chiefs and were leaders on the Eagle Creek fire, and our crew was there. I guess this would have been last night, and when the fire really blew up and pushed a lot of distance. But all of our crews are safe and everybody's doing well. One crew did just get back from Brookings. They were on a 17-day deployment down there, and they just got back. The chief wanted me to please all citizens do not do any burning right now. Obviously, air quality is an issue. Our staff is somewhat reduced. I think the chief has his normal crew, but not as many backups. And please report anything fires as quickly as possible so they can be extinguished as quickly as possible. Extra vigilant right now. And the chief expressed his prayers with our city administrator right now and his family. Chief is here. I don't know if he planned to speak tonight, but he gave me these for the update. Next, it was also noteworthy from the fire district meeting that they were very pleasantly surprised that they are providing more services and more quickly through their extra EMS service that we all approved, or not that we all, but the majority of Canbyites approved last election. So that extra EMS is really paying off. We have 24-hour EMS service, and it's really proving. I think they provided some estimates in the voter pamphlets and things that they had, and it's providing even more service than that. So it's really paying off. And the chief and our city administrator met and discussed some of the street fee updates. And there, I think the chief, if I read him correctly, he was optimistic that the fire district's concerns about the street fee might being presented to us and might have a favorable resolution in the sometime near future. But they are obviously concerned with the street fee and the fire district having to pay the street fee. And that was it for the fire district report. Next was the Planning Commission, which also met August 28th. There were 3 public hearings on August 28th. The first was the site design and review for a conditional use permit and a variance. This was for a construction of a 72,000+ square foot building in the industrial use area. The building will be constructed with concrete tilt-ups right next to Trend Micro. And it's going to be 200 feet by 364 feet and 40 feet in height. It's going to be used partially to house a new business and partially to rent or lease to other industrial uses. Some of the things that were noteworthy in the site and design and review and the variation was that they asked for a delay in the parking requirement because their use, they did not anticipate it coming anywhere near what the parking requirements in our code are. The Planning Commission denied that request and approved it 6-0. So it was approved, but the request to delay or sort of forestall the parking requirement was denied. And there was a conditional use request that was granted to deviate from our 12 employee per developed acre requirement that's in our code, which hasn't really been followed very strictly. And was discussed a few years ago with planning and council. I don't think anything was done, but there was a variation from that was approved. Next was the other, the second hearing was the minor partition and a variance. That was a Bristol application. It was to take a single lot and turn it into 2 lots. There was an existing single-family home that was going to stay there, but there's going to be 2 townhouses built with sort of a 0 lot line on the other 2. It was again approved 6-0. There was some changes to staff's proposed condition that seemed to be relatively agreeable. The noteworthy thing on this one was that the half-street improvements were not required on this. There was money that was held because there's some plans in our long-term plans for North Locust Street for some street improvements, and that money was held to go into that project eventually. And then there was another public hearing, which I think we'll be dealing with tonight, so I'll skip that, but I was at that and did listen to that, so there's my ex parte contact remind me I was at that meeting, so I did watch their report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, excuse me. Councilor Parker.
Nothing this week, thank you.
Okay. Councilor Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like you said earlier, CF4 meets tomorrow and Traffic Safety Commission meetings on Friday, so I have nothing this week either, other than everybody stay inside or wear a mask. Jeez.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know about anybody else, but I can hardly breathe.
Council President Dale.
Committees don't meet until the next week, so I'll catch you double next time, sir.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Height.
Okay, actually, I have a question. You said it was a service day on September 11th. What did that mean?
So, National Day of Service. So, in conjunction with 9/11, President Obama had put in a proclamation or piece about just it being a National Day of Service, so encouraging everyone to go out, volunteer, give back somewhere in their communities or their local cities.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Yeah. Good. I have a couple things. The eclipse was all that, I just have to say. Fantastic. I don't know how the library program went, but the entire state, I think, had a good old time. So yeah, that was great. I wanted to thank Irene Green, the library director, who has left now, I think, but this was great information. I liked the report that she gave, and there was a lot of Friends of the Library members, and there's still a couple. Our former president, Joyce Ayers, is here, and Lois Brooks, our current Friends of the Library president, are here. So I just wanted to say thanks for all the good work you do. And they're also having a book sale. I got a little bookmark from Linda Warwick, who was here. Oh, she's gone now. September 30th, the Friends are having a book sale. It's called the Fall Book Sale. I'm not sure what time it is. Do you guys know? 10 till 4. Okay, good. Thanks for that. Yeah. Let's see what else. There's a couple of interesting programs coming up at the library this month. One of them is called Breaking Chains, Slavery on the Oregon Trail, and that's September 26th at 6:30 p.m. That's funded by the Friends of the Library, as many of those programs are. Music in the Stacks is September 16th. That's a Saturday, and a couple Saturdays at 2:30. And those are some guitarists are coming. It's a duo called Greta Peterson and Mark Hansen. So those are some upcoming activities. And then, you know, our neighborhood liaisonships. I have a little action there. A citizen from the Northeast neighborhood called me today. He is the president, or he's on the board of the Postal Aid Estates, and he's concerned, and maybe Brian Brown could talk a bit about this, the development that will go on North Redwood eventually. I guess there's an application pending maybe there to develop some of the concept plan, to develop some properties there. And he and his neighborhood are concerned about North Redwood, and of course the fact that it's county-owned. What can the city do? But there's, you know, there's concern there. It comes back pretty frequently, I think, the question of streets, what do we do? Construction vehicles tearing up the street even more. So maybe I'll ask Brian a bit about that in future and get back to this neighbor. So, yeah.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, if you do, just copy me on that, just,
yeah,
you know, just so I'm aware. But there's definitely an answer to his questions on how that gets resolved.
Yeah, good. We'll all find out then, good. And then just a final thanks. I didn't really participate in Canby's big weekend the other weekend because I was out of town, but I wanted to say thanks to all the staff, the business folks, the volunteers that were out. It sounded like, at least on social media, that it was a fun time. So that's all. Yeah.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I was going to give a lot of gratitude for all the work that went into Canby's big weekend. The sheer number of people that were downtown that weekend was pretty exciting, and participating in all of the ancillary events. Also, I think the 2 movies in the park that happened last month were pretty exceptional and successful, and there's a committee working on a series of 4+ maybe for next season, so that'll be good. And then finally, I don't have any actual committee notes, but one other thing is, if you are in the agricultural community and know people with livestock or pets in the evacuation zone, Clackamas County Fairgrounds is accepting livestock, small pets, and they're allowing people to stay. Though the way I understand it, earlier today, no one was actually staying there, but they had a few dozen animals there from the evacuation zone. So if you're in that community and you know people looking for a place, please pass that information along. That's it for me.
Okay, we'll move into the consent agenda this evening.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the consent agenda, which consists of the approval of the minutes of the August 16th, 2017 City Council regular meeting.
Thank you. Motion has been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Councilor Hensley to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the August 16th, 2017 City Council regular meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? That passes 6-0. Next on our agenda this evening is a public hearing, zone change to and comp plan amendment of 853 and 851 South Redwood Street from low density residential R-1 to medium density residential R-1.5. And before we jump into that, I will read my lovely spiel here for everyone. The matter presently before the hearing body requires a public hearing. All interested persons in attendance shall be heard on the matter. If you wish to testify on this matter, please fill out a yellow public testimony card and give it to the city recorder. At the appropriate time, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and interest in the matter. Those people other than the applicant or applicants that are interested in testifying as either proponents or opponents, please indicate your desire to speak by raising your hands at this time. For longer presentations, thank you, Peter. For longer presentations, proponents and opponents may buy time from one another. In so doing, those either in favor or opposed may allocate their time to a spokesperson who will represent the entire group. You may be limited by time for your presentation. The applicant will have a total of 3 minutes to speak, and then proponents will be allowed 3 minutes also each, and the opponents will be allowed 2 minutes. Try that again. The applicant will have a total of 3 minutes to speak. The proponents will be allowed 3 minutes each, and the opponents will be allowed, I'm reading that correctly, right, am I? The applicant, thank you. Oh my goodness. It's the smoke.
It's the smoke.
The proponents will be allowed 3 minutes, and the opponents will be allowed 3 minutes. So we have the applicant, the proponents, and the opponents. Everyone gets 3 minutes. And then the applicant will have 2 minutes for rebuttal. All questions must be directed through the mayor. Any evidence to be considered must be submitted to the hearing body for public access. All written testimony received both for and against shall be summarized by staff and presented briefly to the hearing body during the staff report. Testimony and evidence must be directed toward the applicable review criteria contained in the staff report. Conflicts of interest. At this time, I would ask that any member of the hearing body who has a conflict of interest please indicate the nature and extent of the conflict and whether you intend to participate in or abstain from the hearing, from hearing the present matter. Tyler?
None.
Councilor Parker?
None, plan to participate.
Councilor Hensley?
No conflict, plan to participate.
President Dale?
No conflict, plan to participate.
Councilor Wright?
No conflict.
And Councilor Spoon?
No conflict.
Thank you. Ex parte contact. Also, if any member of the hearing body has had any ex parte contact with anyone prior to this hearing, including a visit to the site. Please declare the nature and extent of such contact at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I was at the Planning Commission meeting, but I did not hear or talk to anybody that isn't on the record and in the file already.
Thank you.
So I will participate.
Councilor Parker?
No ex parte contact.
Councilor Hensley?
No ex parte contact?
No ex parte contact?
Thank you.
No contact.
No ex parte contact.
And my ex parte contact is driving by the site to look at it. And I do plan to participate. Does any member of the audience have any questions for any councilor or the mayor regarding ex parte contact or conflicts of interest? No? So the public hearing will be conducted as follows. There will be staff report, questions, if any, by the hearing body or staff. I will open public hearing for testimony. The applicant, again, not more than 3 minutes. Proponents, not more than 3 minutes, and opponents, not more than 3 minutes. Rebuttal by applicant, not more than 2 minutes. I will close the public hearing. Questions, if any, by the hearing body, and then discussion by the hearing body. A decision shall be made by the hearing body at the close of the hearing, or the matter will be continued to a date certain in the future. This will be the only notice of that date you will receive. Does anyone have any questions about the procedure of the hearing? Not seeing any? Great. Mr. Brown, how are you, sir?
Pretty good. Thank you, Mayor Hodson, and good evening, councilors. This particular request that's before you is not a development request per se. It will eventually lead to development, but tonight you're only reviewing what is both a comprehensive plan map amendment and a rezoning map amendment. So if you visualize our two colorful maps, and the distinction between them is small because we almost have a 1-to-1 ratio between a designation on the comprehensive plan map and what zoning that turns in to when you give it a zoning district. And that usually happens when you annex property. You give it a zoning designation that's on the comprehensive plan map. In this particular case, there are 2 tax lots involved. They're at the southwest corner of Southeast 9th Avenue and South Redwood Street. Both tax lots have an existing home on them. And the intent here is to change the comprehensive plan land use designation so that it goes from low density residential to medium density residential. And by doing such, then the request is to change the zoning of the property, which is R1 low density to R1.5 medium density designation. By doing such, the plan, which was shared at the Planning Commission meeting of the ultimate development proposal, which he's following up with a partition application that's currently in the process and scheduled for the Planning Commission, involves just taking the lower tax lot at this point in time and dividing that tax lot into 3 lots from the 1 tax lot that exists there, the one that abuts next to Southeast 9th Avenue. There may be a long-term plan to try to move forward with something on the northern tax lot, but that isn't in the game plan right now. But he's got this long-term vision, so he's trying to rezone and change the comp plan on both of those tax lots. This did go through the public hearing at the Planning Commission, so they've made a recommendation that was voted on at 6-0 to recommend approval of this request to change the maps, as I've just explained. And some of the review criteria that's most important when you're looking at a change, first of all, to the comprehensive plan, and then recognizing that's going to change the potential intensity of use that might be allowed on the property. Since we know what he's planning on, what we're likely to see on the southern tax lot is 2 additional homes, other than the one that exists today, all still single-family homes. And that is generally what's allowed in the R1.5 zone, but there are other opportunities for duplexes and those type of things. That isn't what he has in mind, but that is an opportunity once a rezoning is done, if they should change their minds in some way, sell the property. You know, that's always a possibility, unlikely, but when you're rezoning, that's why there is some discretion to that action that you take. It seems to be a very logical move for both a change to the comp plan and the rezoning that would follow, and that both to the north and to the west has the R1.5 zoning today. It has the medium density residential designation on the comprehensive plan. What he would be doing is extending that contiguous boundary that's there today to the north and west to include these two tax lots, and then the new boundary will be the streets. And then across the street to the east is the school properties, low-density residential designation, and across to the south is a low-density resignation, and you're just changing the boundary to another logical boundary, which is the streets, rather than in the middle of the block where it is today. The only question probably that could possibly come in when you're reviewing such, because it does make a lot of sense, we also noted that we have less property in town currently that is R1.5 zone than the R1 zone. We also found that the lots that are on this property are very large lots today, which is an inefficient use of the land, even for low density, because they're larger than most low density lots would actually be. And most of the lots to the north and to the west are going to be similar to what his resulting division of the lots will be. And so that made logical sense too, that we're really allowing him to develop in a manner that's similar to what's already developed to the north and the west in the same zoning that he's requesting today. So those are the primary arguments in favor. I was going to say the only question that always comes up with rezonings, is this the appropriate time to do that? Is there a better time, sometime in the future rather than now, to make a transition? So with that in mind, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this, and there was no public input whatsoever on this particular application to report.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
A question for Planning Director Brown?
Yes.
Brian, I'm going to get really, really in the weeds here with you, but I know you can handle it. If we can get to page 3 of the staff report on the land use element.
What page is that, Tyler?
Page 3 of 6 on the staff report.
Packet page.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, you mean the handout, Tyler?
Actually, print the
17.
thing.
The handout?
17
Yeah.
of the packet.
Oh, you're talking about this handout?
In the
No.
packet itself, 17.
Of the actual staff report, the Planning Commission staff report.
At the Planning Commission staff report, page 3.
It's
Go into the
section,
land use
it's
element.
section 3, and then it's the second full paragraph after section 3 starts. And there's 3 different page designations or paginations. One is 3 of 6 of your report. One says 17 in the corner, and the other is the City Council packet 6 of 62, if that's helpful.
Sorry. You got 3 options. One of them's got to be it. Do you find it, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious. So this, I didn't know that this made sense logically to me. So if the land use element here, we're saying that the review criterion has been satisfied because it's increasing the housing opportunity choices by moving from 1 lot to 3 lots. I would agree that increasing the number of lots, but I don't necessarily agree that you can come to the conclusion there that it's increasing the choices. You're decreasing one type of lot, which I would say we have a very low number of large lots in the R1 zone, but we're increasing a different kind, which is R5, which would be very small lots. So why did you think, why does the staff report think that the review criterion is satisfied by, why do you think this increases the housing opportunity choices by taking one oversized lot and then making 3 undersized lots?
It was related to the requested zoning from R1 to R1.5 and the fact that we have more land zoned for R1 in the community than we do R1.5. So it was simply a recognition that to make all types of housing equally available in the community, it makes logical sense that you have about an equal amount of various zoned land of different types available.
So you weren't really taking into account the size of the lot per the zone, but more just how many lots in each zone?
That's right.
Okay, great, thanks.
And then, question. Right. And then, what was it, like 6 or 9 months ago, we rezoned on Territorial and maybe Oak or in that area. And I think then we learned that we had a gross inadequacy of R1.5 back then, right? And is that still the case? We still are.
I mean, that's really what the issue was in explaining that particular idea, is that if we had an abundance of already R1.5 zone, that might be a factor in why maybe you wouldn't want to increase density, because we already have enough medium density. But we don't really. We have a need for that particular type of zoning, and because we have a need for it, then that provides another type of housing opportunity, either smaller lot residential development, which we don't have as much zoning for, as we currently don't have very much high-density vacant land, practically none. We have plenty of R2 high-density zoning, but it's all developed with single-family homes.
So, Brian, according to we don't have, this is the zone change, but we don't necessarily, what's in the packet here isn't exactly necessarily what they're, right now, that's the plan that they're going to do, punch in the street.
It's nice to know what their intent to do is with the property. I was just pointing out, you're not really looking at that. Is it suitable to have the zoning and the land use designation that's proposed?
Are these going to be detached single-family homes?
That is what they plan to do.
Detached, not a series of row homes there?
Nope, single-family homes are what they plan.
And no guarantee.
And that's what his application's already in and being processed for.
Any other questions for Mr. Brown?
I actually do have one. The neighborhood meeting minutes, actually the first page, the attendance list, there's 5 names on it. One's the applicant, one's the property owner, so 3 neighbors actually attended. I'm just wondering how many, do you have an idea how widespread the invitation list was?
That's 500-foot radius.
So do we know approximately how many neighbors were invited?
I don't have that list with me. I mean, we have lists that range from 10 to 250, and I don't know what was in this particular.
It just looked like a relatively small turnout, so I was just
And
curious what the interest level
that's not really that unusual for Canby. We have some that have 40 and 50 that attend, and some that have as little as, I think, this applicant was helping with another application, and I think they had 2 people come to that one.
Okay, thank you.
The applicants the people show up as soon as the shovels start moving, and then people know what's going on. So, yeah, we've seen that.
Mr. Mayor, I was going to, Mr. Brown, I think this was the one that had the neighborhood notification that I showed to you.
Yes.
This is sort of a tangent, but did anything come of that, or was there a conversation with the applicant after that?
Yes, I did have a personal
Okay.
conversation with him about that. But I think I also responded to you that it basically does meet the code requirements. It's not our typical informative type notice. And I'm not sure if this was the one or whether it was a different one. I think it actually was a different one
Oh,
than this one.
maybe I missed it.
Yeah, I think it was Rudnick that
Oh, okay.
you're referring to.
Any other questions for staff or, no?
Nope.
Okay. Well, thank you, Brian, appreciate that. I will open up the public hearing here for testimony. Mr. Applicant, would you like to come say a few words? Hi, Peter, how are you? Good.
My name's Peter Hostetler, and I'm the applicant of this zone change and comp plan amendment. I think, like Brian said, it makes a lot of sense. It's logical. It's the last corner of this block that is still zoned R1, and that actually during the application process, it came up that the comp plan, the map that you guys actually have, had already designated this as R1.5, but then when we went through the process and we got the transportation letter, it was actually found out that the map was wrong and that it hadn't actually been designated that in the comp plan, so that's why we're here. That was a really unfortunate series of events because it extended this application, because now we have to go to the state and get a bunch of other notices done as well. So, but anyways, yes, it does make a ton of sense. It's very logical. It completes that block that it'll all be all 1.5. So, other than that, I think that's really all the more input we have at this time regarding this zone change and comp plan amendment.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Hostetler at all? No? Great. Thanks, Peter. I didn't see any, but are there any proponents to this project at all? Any opponents? Okay, well then there's no need for rebuttal. I will close the public hearing. Any other questions at all or from you guys? No? Discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
one thing. So I will be voting to approve this. I think they meet all the approval criteria, so I don't think really we have much other choice. I don't know that there's too much that's arguable here, but I would want to note, just for the public and for us, that we should be careful about moving. The higher density, the more traffic we have. The more traffic we have, the more services we have to provide. The more people we have, the more services we have to provide. Density creates all these other needs that we're addressing with all of our other services. So I think we should be careful about moving to too much density. The need for parks, the need for more traffic, the need for wider roads, the need for more parking, all are a result of moving to higher density. I think it's appropriate in this circumstance, and it fits in that particular location, and they meet all the criteria. But I think we got to be very careful about moving towards higher density.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Any other comments?
I confess to a little bit of melancholy, I think, in terms of the look and feel with the established neighborhood and the loss of large lots. But like Tyler, the Planning Commission did their job. Everything seems to be in compliance. There is a demonstrable need, so I will be voting to approve.
Okay, great. All right, I think that's our first resolution and ordinance, but we'll conclude the public hearing piece and move into.
You actually have a motion on page 3 of the packet.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve application CPA/ZC 17-01 to change comprehensive plan map and zoning map land use designation and zoning district respectively for 853 and 861 South Redwood Street from low-density residential to medium-density residential.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Spoon to approve application CPA/ZC 17-01 to change comprehensive plan map and zoning map land use designation and zoning district respectfully for 853 and 861 South Redwood Street from low density residential to medium density residential. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Carries 6-0. Thank you. Moving to ordinances and resolutions.
The first item we have is ordinance 1463. This is amending the comprehensive plan map and zoning map of the city of Canby, Clackamas County, Oregon for tax lots 0503 and 0504 of tax map 4-1E-03BB.
Mr. Mayor, we've kind of already talked about this, so I'll just move that we adopt ordinance number 1463, an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan map and zoning map of the city of Canby, Clackamas County, Oregon for tax lots 0503 and 0504 of tax map 41E03BB.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Height to approve ordinance number 1463, an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan map and zoning map of the city of Canby, Clackamas County, Oregon for tax lots 0503 and 0504 of tax map 4-1E-03BB. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 6-0.
The next item we have is ordinance 1464. This is before you for second reading. This is amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 5.04.190 regarding business license exemptions. And if you may remember, this is regarding the Uber exemptions.
Kim, yeah, so this was, we had, looking at Uber business license pieces here in the city of Canby, and with conversation with several Uber drivers and with our city manager made the recommendation to treat Uber, Lyft, and taxi service as part of our transportation provider, along with matching that of CAT, Canby Area Transit. And so they're being exempt from the business licensing piece for the city of Canby. So that's what this is, and it's a second reading. So I'll take a motion, please.
I move that we adopt ordinance number 1463, an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan map, and I'm on the wrong one. Sorry about that. I'll go here.
It says right.
Right. I move that we approve ordinance 1464, amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 5.04.190 regarding business license exemptions.
Great, thank you. Second, please.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Height and seconded by Council President Dale to approve ordinance 1464, amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 5.04.190 regarding business license exemptions. Roll call vote.
Councilor Smith?
Aye.
Councilor Parker?
Aye.
Councilor Hensley?
Aye.
Councilor Dale?
Aye.
Councilor Height?
Aye.
Councilor Spoon?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
The next item we have is ordinance 1466. This is amending the Canby Municipal Code by adding a new chapter, excuse me, wrong one, ordinance 1465, amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 9.48.050A regarding noise variance exemptions. And this is also before you for second reading, and this exempts city-sponsored events.
And limits it to the commercial zone only, downtown commercial zone.
You?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance 1465, an ordinance amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 948050, Parent A, regarding noise variance exceptions.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Spoon to approve ordinance 1465, amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 9.48.050, Parent A, regarding noise variance exceptions. Roll call vote.
Councilor Smith?
Aye.
Councilor Parker?
Aye.
Councilor Hensley?
Aye.
Councilor Dale?
Aye.
Councilor Height?
Aye.
Councilor Spoon?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, the next item we have is ordinance 1466. This is amending Canby Municipal Code by adding a new chapter 3.35 park maintenance program and requiring payment of a park maintenance fee. This is before you for second reading.
Thank you, Kim. So again, this was talked about the last meeting. We held a public hearing for that piece for us as well as for public, and it was the addition of implementing a $5 fee to water and sewer bills to support and implement the maintenance and repairs needed for current park situations, and looking towards the future on just the maintenance pieces of that. I do have two people that wanted to speak on the matter. First up, Mr. Daniels, did you want to address the council on the park maintenance fee? Did you want to address us on the park maintenance fee? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mayor Hobson and councilors, the last session that you had, you were talking about the maintenance fee, but there's a lot of discussion on park district. And I think there's two issues, and there's only one that you're voting on. Tonight you're voting on the second reading of the park maintenance fee. Some of you seem to be against the fee. You want a district. You have a district right now, and it's unfunded, and it's been voted down by the people, particularly the people outside the city, because they don't want to fund a parks inside the city. They think it's the city's responsibility. I'm not here to argue that point, but I think that if you are interested in doing something with a district, redo it over or something, that you ought to charge the Park and Rec District to research this and come back with some recommendation for you on that area. In the meantime, if you're talking about a district, you're looking at probably 2 years down the road before you have anything. In the meantime, we cannot develop anything that we have already in the city or maintain what we have. My encouragement is to go ahead and vote for the park maintenance fee. At such time as you get a report back on a district, you can rescind that park maintenance fee and put it into that district. So my encouragement tonight is to let's get the park maintenance and take care of what we have. We can't develop any new pieces of ground, and there's new ones coming along all the time. So if we get this park maintenance fee in, we can go ahead and develop those. And again, let me reiterate, if down the road you say, I'd rather put it all in the district, you have that option. I leave it up to you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thank you.
that. Mr. Oliver.
Thank you, Coach Hodson and the city councilors. I'll try to speak up. It sounds like Mayor Hodson is losing his hearing due to gunshots and train horns, so I'll try to be vocal here for you. No, I just wanted to, on behalf of the Parks Board, say thank you for the approval at the prior meeting. I know that it's a big step and a courageous vote, and we wanted to thank you, and hopefully we'll have the same turnout tonight. And secondly, this just to remind everybody that the passage of this would not mean that we're just going to go out and start building new parks to add on to what we have. This gets us going on our maintenance plan, but it does give us the opportunity to, in the future, to build parks at a responsible rate as see fit by budget restrictions, I guess. So I think that's a big component, so I want to make sure that everybody understands that it's just not once we pass this, we're going to go out and start tearing up dirt and building new stuff. It's controlled. It gives us the opportunity to build at a controlled measure. So so that's all I have, but I wanted to again thank you for your dedication to the community, and thank you for your approval on this.
Thank you, Ryan.
Did you hear that?
Did. Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Right. I will take a motion, please.
I move we adopt ordinance 1466, amending the Canby Municipal Code by adding a new chapter 3.35 park maintenance program and requiring payment of a park maintenance fee.
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilor Spoon, second by Councilor Height, to approve ordinance number 1466, an ordinance amending the Canby Municipal Code by adding a new chapter 3.35 park maintenance program and requirement payment of a park maintenance fee. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to say that for 2 hours at our previous meeting, we had about probably 20 people testify. So those that are in the audience and watching this on TV, it was our public hearing was then, and it was a very robust conversation. And I think we all said our piece then, and so we're going to kind of shorten it tonight. So go back and watch that video if you don't know how that conversation turned out. I wanted to summarize that. Thank you.
Roll call vote.
Counselor Smith?
No.
Counselor Parker?
Aye.
Counselor Hensley?
No.
Counselor Dale?
No.
Counselor Height?
Aye.
Counselor Spoon?
Aye.
Mayor Hodson?
I'm a yes. So that passes 4-3.
The next item we have is ordinance 1467. This is amending Canby Municipal Code by repealing Chapter 2.90 regarding a municipal audit and financial oversight committee.
So the Municipal Audit and Financial Oversight Committee was a committee that was put into place 3 years ago?
3
4 years ago?
3 years ago.
And that was put in by our previous finance director to just kind of create some visibility and whatnot to potential changes to the budgeting process, auditing process, the companies that we were maybe bringing in to do that process. And so over the last probably 2 years, I don't think we've met maybe but once. And we just, between conversations with Rick and our finance director, really don't see any further need for this committee. We've kind of implemented the pieces that we've needed to. And Rick and Julie just kind of see things coming up that may be needing to be addressed that can be handled with an additional, perhaps, budget committee meeting throughout the year. So make it part of either the mid-year kind of check-in with the budget committee or create an additional meeting to include the public members of the budget committee so that we can all kind of have that dialogue. So that's why this is being this committee is being closed up and put away. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, the mayor and I both served on that committee, and in spite of its name, Audit and Financial Oversight, disbanding this committee does nothing to reduce public oversight at all. That committee did make some recommendations in terms of things like reserve levels that we should keep in our budgets, but that committee could do nothing on its own. All of the actions that it recommended had to come before this body in a public forum, and so we're, as Rick likes to say, all done in the sunshine. So I just want to emphasize there's no loss of public visibility here whatsoever. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I move for ordinance 1467, an ordinance amending the Canby Municipal Code by repealing Chapter 2.90 regarding a municipal audit and financial oversight committee to come up for second reading on September 20th, 2017.
And I'll second as one of the other members on it.
You did come in after that.
That never got to attend a meeting.
Yeah.
That must have been the one meeting we had in the last 2 years.
Right,
I think
so,
Counselor Coleman was on it too.
yeah. Motion's been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Councilor Smith to approve ordinance 1467, an ordinance amending the Canby Municipal Code by repealing Chapter 2.90 regarding a municipal audit and financial oversight committee to come up for second reading on September 20th, 2017. Any further question or discussion?
I just want to say I think this is a great idea. We're making government more efficient. Whoever came up with it, it was Julie, right? Our finance director came up. So thank you, Julie. Good job.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes 6-0.
The last item we have is Resolution 1274. This is implementing a $5 park maintenance fee and adopting an annual rate adjustment to be made on the Consumer Price Index, CIPU, for the Portland, Oregon MSA as specified.
The motion's pretty self-explanatory, but again, this is part of the park maintenance fee is not keeping it at a static $5, but looking at adjusting it yearly based on the Consumer Price Index. And the implementation of the $5, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, will be January 2018 is when this will begin.
Yeah, it's to be billed monthly starting January 1, 2018. And it has an expiration of December 31st, 2022, I believe. So it's a 5-year expiration. Yeah.
Sir?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Why is this one a resolution and not an ordinance? I'm curious.
We set all the fees by resolution.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in subsequent years then, Joe, we'll just catch this in our regular yearly fee adjustment that we do on the master fee schedule?
Yes, this triggers it to be increased every year annually by whatever the consumer price index is for Portland. So it'll automatically be changed. You won't have to revisit this fee when we revisit all the other fees.
Okay. May I have a question?
Yes.
Joe, do you, I'm concerned that the resolution does not discuss or mention the sunsetting, which is in the actual ordinance. Is the ordinance itself, when it expires in 5 years, is the resolution have to follow the ordinance, or does the ordinance have to follow the resolution?
The resolution will have to follow the ordinance.
Okay.
Because there won't be a program once it expires.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions? Motion, please.
I move that we approve Resolution 1274, implementing a $5 park maintenance fee and adopting an annual rate adjustment to be made based on the Consumer Price Index for the Portland, Oregon MSA as specified.
Great.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Councilor Height and seconded by Councilor Parker to approve Resolution 1274, implementing a $5 park maintenance fee and adopting an annual rate adjustment to be based on the Consumer Price Index for the Portland, Oregon MSA as specified. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
And I am a yes, so that passes 4-3. Great, there's no new business this evening. Our city administrator is out on family business. Unless Joe, do you have a staff report for us?
I do not.
Second opportunity for citizen input, those that want to address the council on anything that was on the agenda that want to provide some input on or not. Seeing none, we'll go into action review.
You have approved the consent agenda. You've approved ordinance 1463 to come up for second reading on September 20th. You've adopted ordinances 1464, 1465, 1466. You've approved ordinance 1467 to come up for second reading on September 20th and adopted resolution 1274.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Joe, do we have an executive session this evening?
We do not.
Thank you. I will take a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Councilor Hensley, seconded by Councilor Smith to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. All those that want to stay here? None? All right. We're adjourned 6-0. Thank you, Canby. Good night.